I love Bruichladdich. I love everything they make. So how do I avoid a bias? Well, real easy. You put Bruichladdich against Bruichladdich against Bruichladdich. We're going to be talking about the Islay Barley from 2011, 2012, and 2013. Let's get into it. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today we're going to be talking about the 2011, 2012, and 2013 versions of the Islay Barley from Bruichladdich. This is an unpeated Scotch whiskey, which is going to be very similar to their classic laddie, except way more flavorful. Now what they're doing here is they're really concentrating on these farms on Islay and only taking malt from those farms. So let's talk real quick about the differences between the three of these. Feel free to correct my pronunciation here in the comments. I'm sure you will anyway, so consider this permission. All three of these expressions use barley from the Cool, Rockside, Island, Mullindry, and Cruach farms. The 2011 also adds Starch Mill farms, the 2012 adds Starch Mill, Dunlosset, and Sunderland farms, and the 2013 adds Dunlosset and Sunderland farms. We'll get to the nosing and the tasting in just a sec, but all three of these have a couple of differences, but they have a lot more in common, which I find makes these a really cool thing to compare. So all of these are non-chill filtered. They are no coloring added. They're about, actually they're all 50%. They're about the same price, right about $80 US, at least where I live. I'm sure you can find some variation there. Each one of these is comprised of separate barrels that are then married together for a length of time. The 2011 was 6 years and then a little bit of aging. These other two were 8 years. But I found a lot more information about the barrels that were used in the 2011 than I did about the 2012 or 2013. As for the 2011, 75% was aged in first fill American whiskey casks, 15% was aged in second and third fill Sauternes and Austrian sweet wine casks, and then 10% was aged in first fill Rivesaltes wine casks. I might be saying that wrong. There were like 3 different pronunciations. What are you gonna do? It was then married together for about 6 months. The 2012 was 75% first fill American whiskey and 25% French wine casks. The 2013 was 75% first fill ex-American whiskey casks and 25% French ex-wine casks. There's times on this channel where I look at what I'm about to do and I just get the sense of joy that I know that I'm going to love what I'm about to do. Like, this is what I do for fun, right? I drink whiskey and I talk about it, and these are going to be good. They're from one of my favorite distilleries. Let's just go right into this. So, full disclosure, I did kind of do this over on my Patreon page a few months ago when I first cracked the bottles, and I found that there were a couple of these I didn't love right away. I have since tasted them over time as they've been opening up, and they've gotten better and better. So if my notes don't match what you are tasting, if you choose to go buy a bottle of this, know that over time, these have been open for about 5 months or so and been opened probably about 3 or 4 times each. Let's start with the 2011. So not a huge surprise. Like most Scotch, you're getting a very malty flavor. I would say, you know, some words that I would actually probably end up describing all 3 of these, so you'll hear this more and more, is light and bright. You know, it's happy, it's like citrusy, it's lemon, it's orange, it's just very very nice to smell. It smells clean and just like, not like cleaner, but like just fresh, you know. Speaking of fresh, I'm getting some, there's like a slight bit of fresh cut grass thing going on here. There's lemon, as I mentioned, there's apple, pear. It's just very fruity. I would say that's kind of the main thing. It's very fruity with a hint of that grassy herbal note. Cheers. That's a whiskey I am gonna enjoy quite a bit. So I will say the ABV here sticks out a little bit more than I think I'd want to, given the nose, where it felt like just fresh and light and whatever. You take a sip and you're like, that's a heavier pour, but it's also 50%. So it's not unexpected. It just doesn't really match up with what the nose gives you. So it's something to think about. As far as the taste goes, it does maintain some of that fruity flavor, but I'd say it leans a little heavier onto some of those grassy notes. It does taste a little bit earthy. There's some of the oak that's coming across. I would say that there's some sea salt going on as well, like that maritime flavor. Not off-putting at all. You know, sometimes you get a maritime and you taste like the ocean rather than just tasting like the sea spray. I'd say this is more along the lines of sea spray. Let's move along to 2012. Always make sure to cleanse the palate. On the nose, vastly different. Very heavy on caramel, actually, surprisingly. Obviously, this is ex-American oak, so you're thinking ex-bourbon barrels, right? And you're typically going to get some caramel, but 2011 didn't really represent that at all to me. On the nose here, it's very heavy caramel. I also say that there's some bit of hay there, maybe a tiny bit of that sea salt, which makes me think I'm gonna taste that rather than really picking it up on the nose. The nose here is far less complex than this. than the 2011, where it doesn't lean as heavily on fruit. I'd say it's a heavier nose, a heavier scented nose. All right, let's go ahead and have a taste. Cheers. Yeah, very different whiskey. Actually, if you gave the two of these to me, I would say that they weren't even from the same distillery, to be honest. Maybe close, but these are very, very different. This one has an oily consistency to it that usually you get when you have a higher ABV whiskey that hasn't really taken as much from the barrels. Now, if you think back to the descriptors of the barrels that I gave, the 2011 had a lot more going on than the 2012 or the 2013. And I'm wondering if the usage of so much with 2011 gave a lot more of that flavor than this one does. So to give a little bit more on the taste notes here. So there's kind of this oily bit. It does have a little bit of that sea salt, but not as much as I was kind of hoping for. It's a little bit sweet, not over the top. The oiliness and the sweetness really don't play as well together as they could. Let's try another. I'm not getting as much of the fruit flavor as I would like, at least not on the fore part of my, like taste buds, but like as it kind of, as you actually swallow it, you get a little bit of maybe like a, I want to say like a lemon, but it's more, I don't know the right word to describe this, and that doesn't happen very often. It's almost a heavy lemon, but dulled. I don't know if it's probably not a great way to describe it. Yeah, I'm not sure how else I would say that. Yeah, the caramel really is taking over quite a bit on the flavor here. So as far as the 2012 goes, this would probably be my least favorite of the two for sure. But it's just very different. And we'll have to see what number the 2013 represents now at this point in order to see which way this expression is kind of going. 2013 on the nose. Oh no, that's much different. This is way more sugary. Actually, my first thought was almost a cotton candy, but let's think less cotton candy flavor and more just warm sugar. So I guess caramel, but it's not so heavy. It's a little weird to describe. If you could imagine unflavored cotton candy, where it's just like a warm sugar flavor, almost like a sugar cookie, that's probably where I would land on this, almost like a sugar cookie. There is a maltiness on here. There's a little bit of fruit going on as well. And when I say fruit in this, I'm not so much lemon or citrus of any sort. It's more of an apricot flavor. Maybe something a little heavier, almost like a banana as well, like a unripened banana. Bananas is coming across even more and more. You are getting a little bit of sea salt there. The grassy notes are coming the same thing as the 2011. You're getting kind of a grassy flavor, although it's less pronounced than it was in the 2011. The malt is kind of the key player here. That's most of what I'm smelling. The sweetness has gone down just a little bit as far as it's not as present in the nosing here. But let's go ahead and have a taste here. So cheers. The flavor here is interesting. It's quite a bit more complicated than the number two here, the 2012. And actually, I would even say it has more complex notes than the number one, although maybe it's not as enjoyable. It's a heavier flavor. It's almost, I wouldn't say it's a mix of the two, but the oiliness from 2012 is present in the 2013, whereas it wasn't in the 2011. So as far as actual flavors here, though, that bananas flavor is absolutely coming through. It's also leaning a little bit heavier towards the ex-American oak barrels, where there is a brown sugar flavor that's actually really strong. It is also, whereas it would normally, like I said, all three of these are kind of light and bright. Like this one's less light and more, it's being brought down by that brown sugar flavor. But that doesn't dismiss this hint of lemon and other citrus fruits, like a very mild orange, that I think it's melding the citrus notes with the banana and creating this amalgamation that is something I can't describe. But mix that with the brown sugar and you almost have like a bananas foster. Yeah, like the smell of bananas foster on the flavor here, mixed with a little bit of green grass. What the hell is whiskey tasting, right? Like what are we doing here? Okay. So when we taste all three of these, I'm going to give my overall on all of these. The 2011, I'm going to have another sip of each one and just kind of evaluate. But the 2011 and the 2013 to me are standouts. But I'm going to try the 2012 one more time against the other two, and I'll do this off screen real quick, just not to waste your time. I've done my evaluation. I have a winner picked. I will say that my initial impression remains the same. The 2012 would be my number 3 here. However, if you enjoy scotches that are less light and more heavy, you might like the 2012 more than me. I find when I drink heavy, I would rather just have a bourbon because I think that it does it very well. When I drink light and flavorful and fruity, I like to drink scotch. So let me talk about 2011 and 2013 for a moment. I have a winner picked in my mind. I'm curious what you guys think is going to be the winner. I bet you're leaning towards 2011, and I was too for a little bit until I tasted these about 17 freaking times off camera, and I think that I like the 2013 a little bit more, and here's the reason why. The 2011 would be the perfect way to start your night, but after that first pour, I think the 2013 carries a better flavor for longer and will hold up to the inherent dulling of your own flavors. So I think you would taste the 2013 more consistently throughout the night than you would the 2011. The flavors of the 2011 are fantastic. If you can find this bottle, you should buy it. The 2013 though would be my choice between the 3 of these, which makes me excited for the 2014, which is out and I did see and I'm thinking about buying. So if you'd like to see me review the 2014, let me know in the comments. If you'd like me to do another of these after I get the 2014 and do like all 4 of them, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. I think that could be really fun, but let me know again in the comments. And otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your night and go buy the 2013, go buy the 2011, and what the hell, go buy the 2012. But I think this should be the last choice. All right, have a great rest of your night and cheers.